Hello and welcome to the first video where I teach you everything I know about guitar. So in our first video, we're going to learn to play in the key of A. Now, if you're not familiar with what I mean when I say key of A or key of other letters, that simply means, for example, when we're in the key of A, the chord progressions, the scales, all of those things, they're going to revolve around the notes in the key and the scale of A. So that means for example, our scales where we play lead guitar, they begin with the A note. The scales, most of our songs that we will sing, now people will play different chords in different keys for different songs, but generally speaking, if we're playing in the key of A and you're singing a song in the key of A, then the first chord of the song is going to be the A chord. So the first thing that we're going to do is learn to play in the key of A. Now, when I say that we're going to play in a certain key, for example, for this video, we're going to learn to play in the key of A. When we're playing in any given key, that simply means that there are going to be a set of chords that naturally go with the chord progression in that key. So for example, if we were to play a song in the key of A, the chord progressions are going to most often use 3 or 4 different chords. Obviously, one of those chords is an A chord. 2 others will be the D chord and the E chord. And those 3 are what I call the fundamental chords, meaning pretty much any song that you're going to play in the key of A, you're going to at least use the A chord, D chord, and the E chord. So let's get right into the first one, the A chord. Now, I'll jump here and say that if you haven't tuned your guitar yet, meaning you've adjusted the tuning keys here on your headstock so that each note, each open string, meaning we haven't placed this hand on it to chord yet. So when it's unchorded and you just hit it, that's an open string. And so if your open strings haven't been tuned, then I suggest you pause the video here and then go check out my video that talks about tuning. We'll teach you how to tune and get you in tune by the end of that video. That way, when you come back and pick this video back up, your notes will sound like my notes, and so it starts sounding right. You start hearing each note properly as you begin to learn it, all right? So let's get right into the A chord. The first thing that we're going to do is make sure, almost without exception, the first knuckle in each finger that we're using to chord the string will be bent. And you say, well, why does that matter? If you don't bend that knuckle, a lot of times what you'll end up doing is your fingers will be straight from the tip of your finger to that largest knuckle there in the middle of the finger. And what that will cause your finger to do is accidentally or inadvertently also touch another string, usually beneath it. And what that causes is it causes instead of, for example, in the key of A, the bottom string just rings open. But if you don't bend that first knuckle of your finger, it can lay on that what should be open string and it'll sound like this. And obviously that's not what we want. So we want to make sure that that first knuckle is bent on your chording fingers, so that way your fingers only are chording. They're only touching the one string that they're meaning to touch. 2 other things we want to touch on here before we get into the A chord. You'll see that there are metal pieces in your fretboard, and these are called frets. And what we're really doing is pressing the strings against the fret. So if I were to say that we're going to chord the second string on the second fret, you're going to put your finger in the second opening right here, and that would be the second fret. Also, the second thing that we're going to learn here is when I say the second string, you may say, well, does that mean second from the top or second from the bottom? That means second from the bottom. So our highest pitched string is tuned to E. That is our first string. So if I were to say, for this lesson, we're going to learn to play in the key of A. So we're going to start by putting our index finger on the third string, second fret. And then you're going to place your middle finger above that, fourth string, second fret. And then finally place the ring finger on the second string, second fret. So all three fingers, you need to cram them all in there into that second fret. And then you'll start by playing the fifth string with your right hand. And it'll sound like this. Again. And that's the A chord. Let's go on to our second chord, okay? We're going to learn a D chord. Now a D, just as the A, begins with the index finger on the third string, second fret. Your middle finger will go down to the first string, second fret, and your ring finger goes to the second string, third fret. And you can start on your right hand, you'll start with the fourth string and strum it. It sounds like this. Again. Now you'll notice that I'm playing each string slowly and separately. We don't want to do this yet. That's called a strum, and we'll get to that when we start playing songs. However, when we're learning a new chord, you want to hit each string individually to make sure you're getting a good sounding note out of each string. And so if any of your strings sounds like this, if they buzz, they don't have a solid note, maybe they sound dead, or they just you're not hitting it quite hard enough and you hear that buzz, that just means you need to press harder when you're chording until you can get a good sounding note out of each string. All right, from the D, go back to the A. Let's go ahead and talk about transitioning from one chord to another, because very rarely will you play a guitar when you only play one chord. A big part of learning to play guitar is not just learning the chords, but learning to transition from one chord to another. So we're already in our D chord. Let's go back to the A. So the first thing I would say do is pick up your middle finger. Slide your ring finger back a fret until both the index and the ring finger are in the second fret. You'll notice they don't move strings. The index finger doesn't move at all between D and A. The ring finger stays on the same string, just goes back a fret. Your middle finger is the only one that will move, and it goes from the bottom string second fret to the fourth string second fret. Again, we play each note kind of slow to make sure that each string is ringing out as it should. Now let's move on to our third chord. It's an E chord. For this, your middle finger will go up one string to the fifth string but stay in the second fret. Your ring finger goes up to the 4th string, also in the 2nd fret, and your index finger stays on that 3rd string but goes back to the 1st fret. And then we can play all 6 strings, and the E sounds like this. And so as you're practicing, you have all 3 chords now, what I call the 3 fundamental chords of the key of A. So what I suggest you do is you play those chords, and not only play them, but practice transitioning between A to D, back to A, E, and back to A. And you can do that over and over. And this is how you get good at playing these chords so you can start playing a song. Once you get those 3 chords down, and once you get the transitioning back and forth down, I say you're ready to move on to learning a song. My first suggested song would be Amazing Love. I recorded that song, and there's a series of instructional videos on this website that teach you how to play that, teach you how to play a basic rhythm, a basic strum with your right hand, as well as it shows you in real time the chords that you should be playing to play along with me as I sing that song. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.